Hello again, friends. I'm back again with another marker tutorial. This time I figured I would tackle something like dark skin. I think darker skin is a little bit more challenging than doing lighter skin, because with markers you tend to have this thing that happens where the more saturated colors can build up and get like this waxy residue sometimes. It's weird. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you've used markers before, you probably ran into this issue and you know what I'm talking about. So I thought it would be fun to demonstrate my process on doing something like that. I got a male this time. Last time it was a female, so I figured just switch it up and do a guy this time. I don't know who he is. I just saw the picture floating around on Instagram. I figured it'd be fun to draw because he had nice dark skin. So I'm trying to find my colors, get my colors together. Let's see, okay. I'm gonna try to keep this video shorter than the last one. The last one ran over 2 hours in the original runtime. So for this one, I want to try to do it a little bit shorter than the first. It makes it easier for me to upload. So first thing I'm gonna do, probably can hear the thunder and rumbling outside. It's pretty late out here and it's like a thunderstorm coming through. So anyway, first thing I'm gonna do, this is a dark skinned person, but I have this E21 baby skin paint, and the idea here is that this is gonna be like my base layer for a good chunk of his face. And the reason why is because when working with markers, I mean, as you know, it's more about layering than anything else, I think. And it's about getting those undertones, especially when you're doing something like realism. You know, when you're trying to get those plane changes, you want to get the different tones in the skin, because nobody's skin is just one flat color. You know, it's always various colors that you can see. So I'm going to try to build up those tones by starting with something light. And I mean, it also helps to just have, like, it gives the colors on top something to latch on to, if that makes sense. So I'm not too worried about trying to get it neat or anything. I'm just trying to get in, you know, some general brush strokes. All of this is going to be covered up. And I'm not going to do the entire face, the whole right side, which is this portion over here. That part is going to be like in the shadow, so I don't need to worry too much about that. Also because I know that like those darker colors, as I start to layer them up, I might run into that issue with the saturation, like around here, under his chin, like in the neck area, because there's a really dark cast shadow. So I have to think about how I'm gonna approach that carefully. But hopefully we don't have that issue this time. But you guys will see what I mean. There's a few dark colors that are like really saturated, and it's almost inevitable to like run into that issue. I've heard some say that the paper that you use can make a difference, but in my experience, it really hasn't. I think it comes down to, I'd say it comes down to just how much marker you putting down on the page. I think it's only so much that the page can handle before it starts to buckle under all of that. See, this color is drying out. Every time I start a stream or recording, I try to refill the colors that I know I'm going to use most frequently, but I always forget about a few. But it's all right. In this case, it's not a big deal because we're pretty much done with this color. All right. So next thing, I'm gonna grab E23. This is hazelnut, and now I'm gonna begin the process of actually coloring this guy's face in. So I'm gonna use the brush tip in, and this, you can consider this like his base skin tone. And all I'm gonna try to do is capture the plane changes. I'm also use the side to get this to to get like some variation in the brush strokes, to get like different values. Sometimes you can get like different values with the same color, depending on how you layer them up. And I guess I should talk about this red coal erase pencil I put down. In this drawing, I did this the undersketch with the red coal erase pencil. This one, this is carmine red. I mean, I just thought it'd be fun to switch it up. There's no real reason as to why I went with it. I think with the darker skin, you have a little bit more leeway because the sketch is going to be covered up. Like, you cover up the sketches when you do lighter skin too, but the sketch is even more covered with darker skin because the colors that you're using are going to be darker. If that makes sense. So I want to work in some of his highlights, but I'm not going to really focus too much on those because I know that I can put those in later. So I'm gonna just kind of imply that they're there a little bit, like on his nose and on his brow area. Just work my way around the face. And again, I'm not too worried about the nice even colors and stuff here, not just yet at least, because all of this is gonna get like multiple layers and then it'll show through at that point. There's certain areas of his face that has a little bit of a reddish brownish, like in his cheeks, a little bit in his nose, definitely in his lips. So we're gonna try to represent that as well. But I'm gonna take it one step at a time. So I'm using a chisel end. I think it helps to get a sharper edge sometimes when I'm going for a more angular approach to my shapes. That's the idea, at least. It looks very weird right now. It almost looks like one of those old, those racist cartoons with the big lips before you finish putting in all the colors. But it's gonna come together, I promise. Just gotta stick with me. Okay, before I do anything else, I'm gonna take this YR31 because in this area by his cheek, his cheekbone, there's a reflection from his earring, like a glare. and I don't want to forget about that. So I'm gonna put that in now because it's so light, and then I'm gonna work around it. And then these are the earrings on his ear, so I'm gonna work around those as well. Just gonna fill in his ear. Come to these lips. This is R12. I'm gonna start building up these values in his lips. His bottom lip, then his top lip. I'm gonna use E04, which is actually called Lipstick Natural. I like this color for like black lips. It's not a brown, but it's like almost like a Tuscan red type of color. And I think it's good for doing like black lips. His lips are a little bit more brown than this, but I'm using this as more of a base color because I'm come over it with the same color I use for his skin, for the rest of his skin. But to kind of separate it a little bit from his skin, his lips, I'm taking a few liberties to try to give it a little bit more variety. Okay. So it's looking really weird and ugly right now, but don't panic because this is all part of the process. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, this is E15. This is a reddish, this is dark suntan. It's like a reddish brown. And I'm just gonna start putting in some of those reddish brown tones that I could see. This is the point where we start to actually put in those plane changes to give the drawing more, I guess, more dimension. It sounds like the rain is starting to finally calm down. I was trying to wait a minute before I started streaming this. I had to wait for Zora to go to sleep, and also had to wait for the rain because I thought that the power might go out. Since I'm recording this at night, I didn't want to be left in total darkness. So I'm gonna work in some of his nose. A little bit on this cheek on the other side. And put some on the ear. Now, if this was like a white person or just a lighter person in general, I would probably use like a reddish color. But with dark-skinned people, you don't really get that type of blush because the skin is too dark. So you get something that has a little bit of red in it, but it's not like a pink, you know, or a red color. It's more of a reddish brown. Okay, I think I'm done with that. So I'm gonna move on. Let's see. Check my colors. I have a scratch sheet of paper on the other side. I always keep a scratch sheet nearby because you don't want to put a color down that's a little bit too dark or just the wrong color in general. So you want to be careful. So now I have E25. This is Cocoa. And I'm gonna start with his left side of his face. And I'm gonna really start to render in some of these shadow shapes. I'm using a brush tip in for a little bit more control. So generally what I do is I try to pick a starting point in the drawing and work my way from there. So it could be, you know, like one corner of the face or something like that, for instance. And that way it's like it can make something that looks intimidating a little less intimidating by taking it a couple of steps at a time and just working your way through the drawing gradually. Sometimes you get the urge to kind of just bounce all over the place, and then you can overwhelm yourself that way sometimes. So I find that it helps to try to take a slightly less ambitious approach. Whoa, this marker is juicy. You see that? I must have put too much ink in here. So what I'm gonna do is, because I need this color right now, but I don't want to make a mistake. So I'm gonna flip it over on this other side to the chisel end, and just alternating back and forth between the chisel end and the chisel end and the brush tip end can kind of help keep the extra ink from rushing to one end all at once. Sometimes you can buy the markers out the store and they tend to be overfilled like this already. The best thing you can do is you can still use them. You just have to be careful about it because they will the ink will rush out and like blot on the page. Another thing that you can try to do is just simply use the marker. I would say use it in a place where you're filling a large shape or something. So like a background, for instance. It's a good way to run the marker out, make it safe to use again. So for right now, I think we're pretty safe. I'm just going to try to gradually build up these shadows. This back of the head over here. He has like a drop fade, but since most of it is in shadow, it just looks like almost like one big color. So we won't worry about that too much. grab E44, and this is more of a, I say it's more of a warm grayish brown. In his chin, his mustache area, like right above his lip, a little bit around the eyes, there's a grayish kind of, let me see, that's too dark for his eyes. I have something lighter. E43. So for E43 is going to go around his eyes for now. And then is it go on his forehead a little bit, because it's kind of like a grayish thing going on here. Because again, like when you're talking about skin, it's not just black people's skin. Like all different skins, different skin colors, they have like multiple colors that it can be seen, you know, and you want to try to capture some of those colors, some of those changes in the skin. So I'm doing a little bit around his mustache area, because he got a kind of 5 o'clock shadow thing going on. He actually has some on his neck too as well. But we're far from done. We still have to put in our darkest colors. So it's gonna look weird. And I mean, I have to stress the part about it looking weird, because sometimes when you're working on stuff, you want things to look right immediately. You want those immediate results, because it makes you feel confident that you're on the right track. But sometimes it's gonna look ugly for a while before it starts to come together. And you just gotta ride it out. And then it'll straighten up, you know. You gotta be patient with yourself, you gotta be patient with the drawing. Where's my original color? That's not it. Here we go. All right, back to E23. So I use E44 on his chin, in his neck, a little bit around his face. And now I'm gonna use this E23 again, and I'm gonna kind of go over some of these areas again, just to kind of get it back to where it was. He has his brow, like there's a highlight going across his brow area right here. Not sure what you call that. Get these colors here a little bit more. This is E21 again, and I'm just doing this to get the color a little bit more flat again. Now I'll go back to E23 and continue doing what I was doing a minute ago. Which is just basically trying to get those plane changes. That's all I'm trying to go for. Let's see. I got E41 for his eyes, because the eyes are never completely white. See, about 23 minutes in. Let's see. E29, E27. Okay, E27. I'm gonna come back down here. This is the point where I'm gonna try to be more mindful about my brush strokes. So So far we're doing good on the whole marker buildup thing. These colors are not too dark. So maybe we won't have that issue at all. I'm gonna switch between E27 and E25 while I'm doing this side of his face here. And as you can see, like that red marker, well not red marker, but that red pencil rather, it's already like virtually gone. Can't see it anymore. It's all but covered up. Come back to E23. Going to be alternating between these three colors a lot here, because these are going to make up the majority of his skin. I'm just working my way up. I'm gonna jump back for a second. I'm gonna grab E74 because I'm gonna come back and do his lips. His lips need a little bit more defining. Now there is highlights on his lips, but I'm not concerned about it because I know that I can put those in with a pencil. But I don't want to use a gel pen here because I don't want to make his lips look glossy because he's not wearing any gloss or anything like that. So we want to avoid that. Let me see. Let's try this ash rose for his bottom lip. His bottom lip is it's a pink color, but it's not this pink, so we don't want to overdo it. So I'm gonna use this ash rose. I'm gonna try to knock it back a little bit. This was E70 ash rose. Let me put that to the side. And give that a minute to dry because I want the to layer the colors up. Sometimes I want a sharper edge for the shadows, and it's just easier to get that when the colors are dry. So I'm gonna take this dark bark. This is E49. This is a really dark, like a really dark brown. And this is one of those colors that when I talk about that saturation thing where the colors start to get muddy and build up on the paper, this is one of those colors that are like notorious for doing that, for me at least. So I'm gonna be really careful just using this one. I'm not gonna use it a lot. Just wanna use it for maybe his nose and a couple other spots, a couple of key areas. Before the colors start to run together too much and then I lose the shape of his nose in the process. Maybe overdid it a little bit, but it's okay. Let's come back to his nose. This is E25, and it's gonna start defining the shape of his nose. Part here is a little bit tricky because I don't want to give too much of an indication that there's a mustache, because I think he has one, but it's really really faint. It's not much of a mustache to speak of. This is E29, and now I'm just trying to separate these forms towards the edge of his nose. So it's starting to come together a little bit. 33 minutes in, we still have a little ways to go. E25 again. So I'm really trying to get these plane changes. And towards the end, I'll be able to put in the highlights with a pencil and it'll be more apparent. But for right now, I'm gonna leave it. I may do a little bit more to it as those colors dry, but I won't obsess over it too much, because sometimes you can overdo it and then you find yourself wishing that you kind of had a little bit more restraint. So for now, I'm gonna go back to his lips and try to get some of these colors in there. But every so often I have to let it dry because I don't want the colors to get too muddy in the process. I find that letting the colors dry occasionally helps a great deal. But if you want the colors to blend together a little bit more smoothly, I think it's better to get it while they're still wet for a nice crossfade, for instance. Like right here, for instance, I'm going to try to do that because I want this to be more of a soft transition. Should start working my way back here. I always tend to forget about the ear and come back to it later. It's always kind of like its own thing. I don't know why. Drawing is slowly coming together though. It's starting to look like a person and not just a blob of really muddy colors. Using E23 to kind of get my mid-tones. Okay, where's my, let me see, that dark color I had. Yeah, dark bark is actually the name of it. I'm debating whether or not I should use that. Maybe I should use something a little less intense. This is this is W10. This is warm gray 10. And the idea here is we're gonna focus on his eyebrows. We're gonna use this for his eyebrows, his eyes, and maybe in his neck too, in his hair. Not sure yet, we'll see though. If I can find a pencil real quick. Just need a gray one. I'm gonna sketch out his eyes a little bit more. I lost some of the pencil sketch in the process of laying these colors down, and I just want to make sure that I'm not missing my mark with these markers. I'm just coloring it in a little bit just to indicate what's what And now, let's see, should I use that? You know what, I'm gonna go for the dark bark again. And it's kind of risky, but I think that it's dark enough. There's no reflective light in his eyes. There's no iris to color. It's just mostly like a pure black. But I like to avoid using pure blacks in my marker drawings. It's just a personal preference, no real reason. So for the sake of consistency, I'm gonna try to do that. So that waxy thing that I was talking about is happening here, but it's not so apparent that it's an issue, at least not right now. The more that I do, the more apparent that it'll become. So I try to get everything on the first go around so I can be done. There is one trick that you can use that can help you, and that is once it dries, if you erase over it, that'll kind of mitigate it a little bit. It'll take that reflective sheen off that you get from when you get the waxy buildup. So I'm going under his eyelids again. This is E44. There's actually some on the top of his eyelids as well. He has that shiny eyelid thing going, which I like. I always think that looks pretty cool. It's fun to render. Okay, it's time to work his way back to these surrounding areas around his eyes. And at this point, I'm just going to basically repeat the first couple of steps where I just layer the same 3 or 4 colors. And work in those eyelids a little bit right here. Doing a little bit to the lips. gonna grab this E15 again and go in a few areas. I'm gonna go around his nose again. I feel like it needs more of this. Do a little bit around the eyelids again. We're 46 minutes in. This is almost like painting a little bit. Let's see, I need the color for his lips. It's a little bit too dark, at least for right now. Let me see if I get something lighter than that. This is this is V93, by the way. I feel like there's still something missing though. I'm gonna try something a little bit more orangish. Try this. Let me see. Let's try E95. It's a little bit better. Okay. Back to this draw line. See, it's getting a little bit, probably can't tell on the camera, but if you see, it's starting to do that thing that I was talking about. It's kind of hard to avoid it the longer, you know, you use those colors, but what can you do? I find that it does help to use the chisel end and not the brush end when you have that. I don't know that it really does that with the chisel end. The only drawback is sometimes the chisel end is not as dark as the brush tip end. And sometimes you want that dark color that you get from using the brush tip. So you have to kind of pick your battles. Work on his neck a little bit. know what? Actually, we can work our way over to his hair as well. We might as well get it out the way because there's not really much involved. The ear still needs my attention, but I think it'll be easier to just come back to it. I'm gonna work my way up. I'm gonna use this chisel end this time. Since these colors are starting to get a little bit heavy towards the bottom. I'm gonna take this all the way to the top, actually, for his hair. I'm gonna go over his hair with the warm tin, and that's gonna give us his hair color. Since we're at 52 minutes now, I'm going to estimate that this drawing will be done within at least an hour, 20 minutes. I don't want it to go longer than that. But if it comes to that, then it comes to that. I won't try to stress about it. This is actually not dark enough either, but I don't want to use a dark part there. It'd definitely be a problem. So we're gonna try this warm gray first, see how that holds up. Brought this cast shadow down a little bit too far. and go over this with the E29. Get it closer in line with the surrounding colors. Going to the E27, I'm just trying to get this the shape of his neck, the different muscles and things in his neck. And then finally, E25. This, I'm trying to get to the part with the subtle plane changes that's not that obvious. It's coming together a little bit. I think my likeness is a little bit off, but hopefully it's something that I can correct. If not, it's not a big deal. The main purpose of this is to show the skin tones. And if I can do that, then I'll be satisfied. Okay, since this part that I was talking about earlier is starting to dry, I'm gonna show you a little trick. I don't know if you can tell from the camera, but it's like kind of got this reflective thing. You can see it in the eyes too, which is not something that, it's undesired for me. So I use an eraser, and I can do it over here too, actually. His nose. It doesn't erase the mark or anything. It just kind of picks up that I guess that extra layer of grit or whatever's on there, and it takes that sheen off. It's not a 100% fix, but it does help. So it's something to think about. But the best solution I find is to just simply try to limit the number of layers you put down when you're drawing, and try to use the chisel end. You know, you don't have to do it for the entire drawing, but you do want to make it a point to at least be mindful of it as you're going through, because it does build up. And I mean, I guess every paper has its limit, so you just have to be mindful. So I'm gonna do his hair. This is the warm 10 again. Gotta get my man hairline straight. You don't want him having a crooked hairline. It's a big deal for us. This is the part where he has kind of the drop fade going on. Now it's more obvious towards the back, like down here, but it's a little less obvious in the front, like on this side. So I'm gonna try to get that in there as best I can without overdoing it. Take my, let's see, go back to my E29. While I'm at it, I'm gonna put some over here too, his eyebrows. E27. I'm squinting my eyes as I look at this reference photo, because what I really want is those plane changes that I see in his head, his face, forehead area, all of those things. I want the general shape. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to get enough information to accurately describe like the subject. I think that's like the key to capturing a person's likeness. And I'm gonna play up some of these shadows around his eyes. And I think this type of thing, it gives it a little bit more contrast. It makes for a better drawing. Trying to take my time around these eyes. Let's see what else I got. Jump back to my E25. And now I get a little bit closer to his likeness. So I guess I should probably do these ears. Stop putting it off. Let's see. I'm gonna be careful. I'm not a really big fan of drawing ears, like realistic ears. It's easy to kind of make a wrong move, I think. But I'm gonna do my best. Erase some of that red pencil. He has a grayish green shirt. It's fairly easy. Well, this is actually a little bit too dark, but we're gonna roll with it. It's not too far off. All markers dry lighter than when you initially put them down. So this color looks kind of dark, but it'll lighten up a little bit once it dries. It's a general rule of thumb when coloring with markers. Currently at 1 hour and 9 minutes, so maybe we'll be done before. No, I'm gonna say it's. I'm gonna still say it's gonna be about 1 hour and 25 at least. All right, gonna leave that for now. I'm gonna jump back to his hair because I'm doing everything I can to avoid doing his ear, apparently. And I'm just going around the outside of it. I'm trying to give it that, it's kind of fuzzy, you know, black people hair, got the kinky hair, and it's not a cartoon or anything like that, so I wanted to give it that extra layer of detail. Because the background is going to be a light brown, like a light tan color too, and I want to be able to distinguish his hair from the background, but I kind of wanted to, I don't want it to be a sharp contrast, like a super sharp contrast from one thing to the other. I want it to be a little bit more gradual. I think it add like another layer of photorealistic like quality to the drawing. And I got one more trick up my sleeve with the pencils, but that's for later. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the ears and stop putting it off. It's the inside of the ear. Looking at my reference photo to make sure I get everything on point. There's something I'm forgetting on his face, and I'm trying to remember before I go any further. Just doing the inside of his eyes. Ah, that's what it was. Okay, I remember now. It was this glare on his cheek. E31, E30. No, wait. Excuse me. That's YR31, YR30. These are going to be the colors that we're going to use for his earrings, and it's not much to it. Just a little bit of something there. Okay, work my way back to the ear with E29. I'm gonna do some more on the inside. It's 2:25 a.m. The rain has stopped finally. My this is my E15 again. Work my way back to the ear. Let's see, E25. This side of his face is like really dark. So I keep going back to this E29, but it doesn't seem like it's doing quite enough. But I know that if I go darker than this, I'm gonna run into that waxy problem again. So I'm trying my best to avoid doing that. Let's see, how about this? Let me try something a little bit different. I just lost my cap. I'll take this W10. Okay, and now I'm going to come back with the E29. It's a little on the darker side, maybe a little bit too dark. So because I put it here, I gotta put it throughout the drawing for the sake of being consistent. Otherwise, it'll look off. Now, we're close to finished. The background is really simple. It's just pretty much one solid color. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to add in some details. I'll start by finishing up his earrings. All right, now the fun stuff. This is the white pencil. This white pencil we're going to use to carve out all of our highlights on this guy's face. And it's a simple thing, but it makes a world of difference. I'm going to start with his chin because this looks like it'll be fun. We're just going to work our way up. Now his lip, I'm going to have to probably pull out the gel pen for that bottom one because the color as it is already so light. But for the top lip, we should be able to get away with just the pencil. And at this point, the drawing is really starting to come together. Get his nose. Using the side of the pencil right here. And finally, we can do something to this brow. And then a little bit on the top of the head. He also has a little bit in his eyebrows. Do something to the neck too, before I forget. Still using the side. And you can start to see already, like it's not even a lot. I didn't do a whole lot. But it makes a really big difference in the end. Which is why it's one of my favorite parts in the drawing. Okay, I'm gonna use this cotton swab just to blend it out a little bit. Kind of help get some of those pencil strokes out of there and make it a little bit more subtle, but still noticeable. Smear this one on my finger because I want that one a little bit more subtle. Don't want it as intense. And I'm basically just spot checking the drawing at this point. Just smear that a little bit on my finger. What else? Suppose I can do a little bit to the shirts. Not a whole lot to do though. We actually had 1 hour and 30. I went over my limit, so I guess that's out the window. But yeah, man, I guess this is a good start. This is a good point to end on. I can put the background in, but it's a simple background, so it's not much to explain other than I'm just filling in and all, you know, the background with one flat color. So, I mean, I hope you guys found this helpful. Nonetheless, eraser. Do a little bit more to that part here. So yeah, man, I hope you guys found this helpful. Send me some suggestions on what you want the next one to cover, man. We can try to go through a list of ideas, see what you guys would like to see the most. But until then, I'll see you guys next time. Take care of yourselves. Peace.